The Spurs keep doing things. They make another move, bringing in free agent Micah Potter on an Exhibit 10 contract, just once again making a sneaky great move that may not help the actual Spurs this upcoming season, but will definitely help the Austin Spurs. And this is coming on the heels of bringing back Riley Minix and Harrison Ingram on two-way contracts. The Spurs can't stop making great moves. Again, David Jones, Garcia, Lindy Waters, all of that great stuff, but there's a lot of question marks, Keenan, with all these recent signings looking towards next year. There's a couple names that come up as expendable, such as Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell. We're going to be talking about that. And a big thing on Jeremy Sochan is his extension. It might very well be imminent. A bunch of great stuff to get into on this live episode. Keenan, the chat is popping. We got Norris, we got Shepard, we got Wayne, Jose, Spurs 27-28 champs, Gabe, Shepard, Spurs again. How excited are you for this, Keenan? We're almost at the end of the offseason. The season is around the corner. The Spurs keep making great moves. I could not be more excited for this upcoming season.
Me too. Like, first of all, thank you for joining the live, and I appreciate the fact that I finally get to do a live with you. I've been excited to do this live, and I cannot wait for the Spurs season. I mean, we got Eurobasket coming up soon, so we get to see a few of our players there, and then from there, we just get to see the Spurs start to cook, and the season cannot come soon enough.
No, I'm so ready for them to cook. I mean, we've been cooking all off season long. I mean, no, we didn't get Kevin Durant. We didn't make the massive splashes that maybe some people were thinking, the Giannis, the KD, all this stuff. But we made the perfect moves to add depth to this team. We got the fans in chat. We got Hanzuki, Gabe, Michael. So many amazing. Thank you all. 73 people in here now tuning into this stream. And hey, you know what? If this is your first time stopping by a live, you can see up there we got the sub count. We're so close to 10,000. If you can do anything to help us out, that one click on the subscribe button would seriously mean the world. 10,000 is such an insane goal, and it's thanks to you. Yes, every single one of you watching that's making this possible. And we're gonna start, Keenan. Let's just talk a little bit. Let's just chat, because I know we want to get into Sochan, we want to get into Vassell, we want to get into Keldon, and we want to get into these three most recent signings from the San Antonio Spurs. But I just want to talk with you and with the chat about the depth chart. And again, I'll be reading chats even while this is up, and we'll bring the chat back up on screen in a bit. Don't worry, we will be calling your name out. But Keenan, taking a look at this, I mean, I feel pretty good with this starting lineup. Now, this is the depth chart that I made. We've talked about it a bit. I got Fox, Castle, Vassell, Sochan, and Wemby starting, with Harper, Champagnie, Keldon, Harrison Barnes, and Luke Kornet off the bench, with Olynyk kind of cycling in some minutes here and there. Is there anything that you foresee different on opening night, or do you see any guys maybe that could sneaky climb up in this depth chart as the season goes on?
The only switch possible probably would be Harrison Barnes for Sochan to start. Just to get that veteran presence there, and Sochan off the bench towards the back half of the season. He actually played pretty well once he came back from his injury, so that might be the only switch. Otherwise, I think that's what we got. And then from there, it really depends on the development of Dylan Harper, because if Dylan Harper's ahead of schedule, I don't see how you keep him out of the starting lineup for part of the season. You might move. That's when you talk about Johnson and Vassell possibly moving closer to the deadline, or even bringing Vassell off the bench if you want to really keep that punch there, and then just stagger the minutes between Fox and Harper to keep that one in the lineup at all times.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I mean, you know, we talked about this a bit, right? And we talked about the future of the Spurs having, like, you know, potentially a Fox, Harper, Castle kind of 1 through 3, a more modern, smaller 1 through 3, because other teams' threes are not that big anymore. We're not seeing as many 6'9", 6'10" small forwards, so Castle could very well play that 3 role. Do you think we see a lot of lineups like that this season, even if it's not Harper, even if it's someone like, you know, Fox, Champagnie, Castle, or I don't know, something like that? I mean, I guess Vassell, in a way, sort of still is a shooting guard. I guess really the starting 1 through 3 that we have here could be that, but like, I also foresee like some interesting lineups getting tested, like some big bully ball lineups, or maybe you run Sochan at the 3 and you run like Olynyk with Wemby, or Wemby with Kornet at the same time. Like, I don't know. I feel like the cool thing about this lineup, Keenan, I want you guys in chat to let me know what you think about this as well, is that we can try so many different types of lineups, right? We can try like the anti-shooting lineup. I don't know, like Harper is not that bad a shooter, but like Harper, Castle, you know, Carter, Bryant, who's not that bad either, Jeremy Sochan, and like Kornet off the bench or something like that. What I really like is I feel like we can send out whatever lineup that we need that can counteract the opponent's strengths, just because of the sheer difference in between so many of these guys' play styles. And I think that's one of the things I'm more excited for this season.
I'm in the same boat as you are. One, with the fact that the last two champions, we had the Celtics and the Thunder. They have smaller lineup. I
Yeah.
mean, you saw like a Caruso, Shea, Lou Dort. Obviously, there's physical guys there, but not guys who are super tall. Or Boston with Derek White, Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown. Like those guys aren't massive in stature.
Yeah.
6'7" is really the tallest there. So I think we're gonna be fine in that department, and we fit that well. When it comes to different lineups, the first 10 to 15 games, though they're going to be super important when it comes to wins and losses because you got to get out to a fast start. I think you're going to see a lot of lineup changes where you're going to see like, oh, let's test out what Fox and Harper look like together. Oh, let's test out when we go to the two big with Cornette and Wemby. Let's test out maybe we want to put Sochan at the 3 and go like a very big front court. Like we're going to see so many different lineups we throw there just for the sheer fact of let's see what we have, what works, what doesn't, and then we can decide from there what we're going to do moving forward. Do we need to move anybody? Do we not need to move anybody? What do we need to do? I think it's going to be super fun to see what the Spurs do in the first quarter of the season because I think there's going to be a lot of different things moving forward.
Yeah, and again, everything can change. Tip was the tip of hat. That's not what I was going to say. Anyway, whatever. Anything can change at any given moment. I forgot the saying. Yeah, exactly. But I want to put the poll up there, and please vote in the poll. All you 91 people. Thank you so much. The most people we've had in the stream so far. You guys are absolutely amazing. I think a lot of people are saying in chat here, Keenan, like I saw a couple people mention it, that the first change should probably be Barnes starting over Sochan. And I get that. I personally am a Jeremy Sochan truther, and I am not afraid to admit that. And I think that, yes, Harrison Barnes brings us some amazing shooting veteran presence. I think Sochan might steal that starting spot at some point throughout the season, though I think you guys might be right. And I have to poll in chat. Please vote who you think will start at the 4, at the power forward spot to start the season. Is it Sochan or is it Barnes? We'll take a look at that poll in a minute. But again, with Sochan, Keenan, I think, again, we'll talk about the extension in a moment because I think that probably will get signed this offseason. But it wouldn't shock me, too, if Jeremy's like, hey, wait until you see what I can do in Eurobasket. Wait till you see me for Team Poland up against Team Slovenia coming up in 3 weeks, I think, to the day from today, if I'm not mistaken, August 28th. So I think Sochan is going to put on a nice show at Eurobasket. If he doesn't put on a great show, who knows? But, I think he's going to start impressing people because, again, the form, Keenan, as we talked about in that video on this channel recently, is his form looks good. His shooting stroke could very well improve. 31% is not ideal, but, the guy's an efficient player. He's an unbelievable defensive force, and he's very versatile on offense, and thanks large part. I know the point Sochan experiment is considered I don't know if it's considered a failure, but it's he's not going to keep doing that. But I think that gave him so many nice skills, and I think Sochan could be a sneaky guy that can really eat a lot of minutes this year. And I bet you too, especially with the other talent that we have on this team, I don't think his extension is going to be as pricey as some people are projecting. And I'm maybe that's me, having a bit of hopium here, but I think Sochan's going to be such an important part of this team, and hopefully at a contract that's going to be a really good deal for our Spurs.
If you can get him, Harrison Barnes right now is, I believe, around 17.5. If you can get him within the 19.5 to 22.5, it's going to be a perfect time to get him. And if you get him on a 3-year deal too, that's going to be at the end when you need to pay Castle and Harper and around that time. So you really get to see, is he going to be part of that next wave, or is he going to be a guy who is there towards our development, but we can move on him in the latter stages? And I'm with you. He is going to come out. I think he is going to play high-level basketball. And even so, we know how good of a defender he is. We even can run lineups with him at the 5, depending if we're playing a Warriors team that has Draymond Green at the 5 or things like that. He has the ability to kind of play inside and outside. So I think we're going to have a lot of different lineups. And he understands it's a contract year. Even if the Spurs don't sign him back, which I hope that's not the case, but obviously could be the case, he's playing for 29 other teams as well to be okay, I'm worth 20 plus million a year, not 15 or less.
Yeah.
So this year he's coming out and he needs to prove that. First thing first, getting that 3-point percentage up to a 35 on spot ups. If Aaron Gordon can go from 29 to 44,
That's your guy,
that's my guy. Literally, Sochan needs to be Aaron Gordon. If he does that, then we are going to be perfect. That is all we need him to be. Just Aaron Gordon, not obviously minus the hops, because Aaron Gordon's a freak jumper.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, I think there's a world he can get there. Again, we'll have to see. Eurobasket, I think, will tell us a lot, especially on a team where he's going to be expected to do a lot more. On the Spurs, he doesn't have to, and he still averaged a lot of points. Like, I'm curious to see what he can do with the ball in his hands a bit more. And we're going to end the poll right there. And oh my gosh, that actually ended a lot closer. By the way, if you guys are not familiar with YouTube polls, they like never add up to 100%. Drives me mad. But 51% Barnes, 48% Sochan. So that means out of 35 votes, Keenan, 18 people said that Harrison Barnes will be starting at the 4, and 17 people said Jeremy Sochan at the 4. So hey, I'm not the only one putting Sochan there at the starting 4. You guys are speaking, but I want to get to the chat because it's the chatters that make this worth it. The chatters that are making this a great stream. So I want to shout out everyone that's in here. I said a lot of your names earlier. We got Gabe saying this is the year we see who we are and who we can be. Absolutely, Gabe. Thank you so much for being here. Charles says Jules for Castle in the starting lineup. I don't know about that, Keenan. What are your thoughts on that take? I thank you for commenting, Charles, but I don't know about Julian Champagnie. I get it for the shooting, but I think Castles are in that spot at this point.
I think if you're going to go shooting wise, you have to just put Barnes in there for Sochan. I don't think you take Castle out. Castle, as a rookie of the year coming in, and he is our best perimeter defender. So I just think you can't take out that perimeter defense and then put Champagnie in there. Then you have Fox, who's a good defender, but not a great defender. You get Champagnie, who's a solid defender. Vassell, who depends on what Vassell we get. We can either get not great defending Vassell or what. We need a plus defender there, and I think Stephon Castle is that. So I think if you're going to have shooting, you need to just put Harrison Barnes in for Jeremy Sochan and not take Castle out.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there. And look, I think it's Castle's spot until he proves he doesn't deserve it, which I don't think is going to happen. Though sophomore wall could be a thing. Sophomore slump is what they call it. Rookie wall, sophomore slump. Get your terms right, Josh. Let's take a look. Thank you, though, for the chat, Charles. Gabe saying our bench is going to beast it. Completely agree. Spurs are going to smoke the league. Thank you for being here, Philip. Charles also says we're going to roll out Fox, Sochan, and all 3 bigs on the perimeter just to throw Cleveland off. That would be so... That's what I'm saying, though, Keenan. Like, we're looking at this team, and I'm like, bro, we could do so many crazy things, right? Like, Sochan has played the 1 before. Like, you just go huge. You go, like, can you imagine a wacky lineup of, like, Sochan, Carter, Bryant, Wemby, Olynyk, Kornet? They'd never do that. I don't think they would ever play one of Wemby, Kornet, or Olynyk at the 3, but, like, the fact that we could even feasibly do that because of Wemby's versatility is kind of nuts. I feel like we could see a lot of meme lineups this season. I don't know what Mitch Johnson's going to do. I know the guy likes shooting. He likes the fast pace, so running 3 bigs at once might not be his style, but hey, I'm up for something pretty funky.
Listen, if you have Harper, who is 6'6", Carter Bryant at the 2, 6'8", Sochan at the 3, like 6'8"-ish, and then you've got Wemby and Kornet, that's actually, there's some shooting there in Bryant, Wemby, and depending what Sochan and Harper can do, you can play deep. That would lock up. That's seatbelt treatment. Like, that's just seatbelt treatment.
Oh man, that would be the crazy. Do you remember? Like, I think you said give Cleveland a run for their money. There was a lineup where Cleveland that year. I don't even remember. It was some crazy stuff. They had like Taco Fall, like the 4. I don't even remember, but it was ridiculous. But yeah, thank you for that comment. That was hilarious. Barnes is a must keep. I'm down for that. Goat emoji, says Elijah. Micah Potter's an underrated pickup, and I saw someone asking who we got as Brandon. Hey, it is Micah Potter, but we'll get to him in a bit. We got some other stuff to talk about first, but that acquisition, even if it's mostly just for Austin, Micah Potter does have 64 games of NBA experience, and we're going to shed some more light on him later. Keenan's done a bit of research on this, so
I did a deep dive on Micah Potter, guys, so you didn't have to.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't have to. We don't have the footage for him, and sometimes you can get a copyright strike for that, but that's all right. We're gonna keep going. My starting lineup is Fox, Castle, Vassell, Wemby, Kornet. I like that, Joseph Durrell. It's like, you know what? I don't mind that at all. Like, I think that. I don't know if that's going to be our permanent starting 5, but I think it very well could. And look, we're going to try to get to as many of these as we can because there's a lot of chats in here. So we're going to try to get as many as we can. But, as usual with a lot of the Digest media channels, look, if you're a channel member, we have different tiers of channel membership as well. If you're a channel member or if you leave a super chat, we'll get to you in priority. But I'm going to try and read as many as I can. But there's so many of you, over 100, that it's so hard to do it. I hope you guys understand. We'll try to get to some of yours. But Keenan, before we move on to the next thing, I am just going to ask the fans for one little thing here, and that is just to simply click the like button. That's all you got to do. It's just one little click. You see a number go up, it means the world to us. It helps us a surprising amount. Like, I know YouTubers say that all the time, but like, it really does. Just clicking like once pushes us up in the algorithm. If you want to share in these live streams with other friends, family, or people you don't even know that want to share in this Spurs content, hitting that like button does more than you could ever know to help us out, push up in that algorithm. Let's dive into something else, Keenan, before we get to some of these signings. And I want to go circle back to Sochan's contract, but I want to look at the salary cap situation just a little bit. And with Fox's extension, you know, a lot of the talk, and I want the chat to be active in this as well, and I think I'll put up a poll in a second. There's been a lot of talk about De'Aaron Fox and how that contract could handcuff us to some extent in the future because we have so many guys on rookie deals. Like, you know, we're seeing what the Thunder can do, and my opinion is what I've seen some people say is, look, if they can lock up J-Dub, Shea, and Chet all on maxes, we'll be fine. Like, because again, I don't foresee all of our guys getting maxes. You know, just, I don't know, Castle could be worth it, Harper could be worth it, Wemby is already. He's going to play better than a max. How are you feeling now that we've had a few days to settle down? I want the chat as well. How are you feeling about the De'Aaron Fox signing, and how do you feel about the salarial situation moving forward, considering we have so many extensions that we're going to need to lock in for this team to really compete for the long-term future?
I'm feeling like Harper's not going to come out and be a top 15 guard within the first 2 years of his career. That's perfectly. I think that he has the potential to be not top 15 guard, top 15 player.
Yeah.
I think he has the potential to be a top 20, top 15 guy if he really hits his peak. He's not going to do that within year 1 or 2. I think him coming into a situation where he doesn't have to, okay, now I got to put the team on my back, run units, and be able to really be the second best player on a playoff caliber team. I think that's going to actually help him rather than hurt him. He's going to get 28 to 32 minutes a game. This is where, when obviously a lot of people have talked in the chat about Vassell and Johnson, this is where that's going to happen. I don't think Fox is the piece you have to move. I think it's Johnson and Vassell if Harper is really that, because that's 31 minutes a game that you can deviate to Dylan Harper, you can to other players as well. And then when it comes to the future, I understand Fox is going to be in the 50 millions, but that's where contracts are going.
Yeah.
That's just really where contracts are going, with the salary cap going up and up in the NBA. So he's going to be a movable contract because in 2 years, he's going to be 29 going into that season. People are going to take a 29-year-old De'Aaron Fox who can still put up 20 and 8 on a given night. Like, could you imagine the Bucks saying like, oh yeah, we want him to pair with Giannis for his last couple years to get a point guard there, something along those lines. So I think it's going to be fine. And once Harper is ready and once Castle has taken that step, I think then we can look at what we need to do with Fox. Castle, to me, is the guy, the X factor that really can change things. If he develops as a shooter, if he is able to stretch the floor, then I think that's going to change a lot for the Spurs.
Yeah, I completely agree. And again, the evolution of these players is really like, you know, it's hard to say how good we feel not knowing where these players' career trajectories are going. Because, like, you know, there's a world where Jeremy Sochan, like you said, signs for 20 million. I think we'll talk about that now in a second. And, like, in 2-3 years, that looks like an absolute steal because he's averaging an efficient 18-9 while being an all defensive player. And like, you know, if that's the case, then you're like, okay, well, that's great. So we can afford to spend more on like a Harper or Castle, right? So there's a bunch of different aspects to this that we got to look at, but the evolution of how these guys are going to be playing is very important. Like, if Castle can become a good shooter, then we're going to be questioning different things. And just the sheer amount of talent we have ahead of Harper makes it seem like, you know, this rookie extension might not be that much because he probably won't have the pure counting stats, even if he might have the impact that, you know, he should, right? If he is that high impact, lower minute kind of guy, like a certain man behind me, you know, you never know what kind of money that's going to demand. But I want to raise a separate question as we got a poll going again for all you wonderful people in chat. Hello to everyone. Hi Eli. Just want to shout out to a few people here. Do you think the Spurs are going to get Giannis? I'm trying to read some of these chats. We might revisit that in a different video. Maybe not for today, but that's a great question, Eli. And I think in the future, it's not impossible, especially with what Giannis has been saying. But let's bring it back.
De'Aaron Fox could be in that deal. That's all I'm saying.
Whoa, okay, whoa, and that's maybe another video right there, because Giannis has been praising Wemby a lot. But the poll right now is, how do you feel about the Spurs salary cap situation going forward? And right now, most people are very positive in this poll, but I'll leave it up for a little bit because we'll check it at the end of this segment. I wanted to bring up one specific thing here, because it really is just after this year. Because after this year, there are a lot of questions. The Sochan extension, I'm not really worried about. Bassey is just a cap hold. That's not going to matter. But the fact that we have to replace Barnes and Olynyk is something that I'm interested in. And I wanted to throw this to you for a second, Keenan, and also throw it to the chat. Olynyk and Barnes might straight up be the two best shooters on this team right now. I don't think that's a stretch to say. I think Champagnie is great, but he is very streaky. And I think Olynyk and Barnes are both veterans who are fantastic shooters. And having to replace both of them might be difficult, especially since they're both, well, Barnes is like a PFSF and Olynyk's like a center PF, right? So they could both occupy some of those minutes at the four. Do you foresee that being a problem? And I don't necessarily think problem, because I think a trade could remedy that, but like, I don't think the Spurs would love to let these guys walk for nothing either this season, right? So you're going to get into that dilemma where it's like, you have Barnes and Olynyk, who are probably going to be contributing a lot to this team, a team that I project to be in a playoff spot. Come trade deadline, do you really want to move those guys if you're in a playoff spot, especially since they give you so much shooting, but knowing that their contract's expiring after the season and they can go wherever? Then you could talk about an extension. Okay, we could just extend them and keep them around. But then you're talking about extending like a guy, Kelly Olynyk, who's well into his 30s, Harrison Barnes, who's into his 30s now. Is that something you really want to do? Maybe 1 or 2 year deals. That's one of these things where I'm a little iffy on this, Keenan, because it's shooting is something that we don't have locked up long term right now. And I don't know if locking up one of those guys on a long term deal is really the right move. To me, that's one of the more interesting and I think underrated aspects of the team's construction moving forward. How do you feel about that?
So, couple points. One, the Harrison Barnes point itself, Harrison Barnes is good enough to where he can really contribute to championship level play. I think we might have to let him go at the end of the season, but that's where the 14th pick in the draft needs to step up a little bit. And by year 2, we need Carter Bryant to be able to at least give us 14 minutes a game, 16 minutes a game of like shooting plus also like tenacious defense, which we know the defensive portion he can do. So that's where Carter Bryant comes in. I think we can still extend Kelly Olynyk. It really depends on Sochan's contract. If he has like 25 plus, he's calling for that and he's deserved and earned it, then that's going to be difficult. If he is around the 19 to 21, I think we can get Olynyk for another year or two, because he's a guy who you can get on veteran, a 1 year, $11 million deal. And I think he would be okay with that. He's making 13, so maybe even another 1 year, 13, 2 year, 25 with a team option or something along those lines. Like, Harrison Barnes is the guy that I feel like we're really going to need to replace. And I think we have the replacement on the roster if the development is there. And that's why this year is so important, because Carter Bryant's development really can change a lot. Because if he can develop into a guy who can play 18, 20 minutes a game for $5 million a year, that's a bargain.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a bargain.
That's the thing, right? And it's tough because, Barnes 33, Olynyk 34. It's like, I think you're right. I think Carter Bryant, like, if you can, let me finish my sentence. If you can get him doing even like 60-70% of what Harrison Barnes gave you, that's amazing. But again, we drafted him. Look, we see the upside. I mean, we saw those dunks. Do I have the videos anymore? I probably just have some hockey videos here, to be honest. Yeah, sorry for the other channel. If you guys didn't know, I do a hockey channel as well. But the thing with Carter Bryant is that pushing him into that role in year 2, you know what? That's actually a really interesting point, because I think we'll have to take a look at what he does this year. Because if Carter Bryant comes out this year, and you can, and he does do what some analysts are saying he might do and force himself into the rotation with his good play and his great defense, then you might be more willing to say, all right, buddy, you're clearly an NBA talent. We're going to let Harrison Barnes go, and this is your spot. But if he is still very raw, and it's like he just looks a little lost on the court, which is, again, something I anticipate. Like, I don't want to put the pressure on these guys to be amazing, unbelievable talents right away. I think Bryant is a very raw prospect. I think the flashes of greatness are there. I think he's going to long-term be a great player for the Spurs. But I don't know if he's going to be able to be like a key rotation guy in year 2. And I know you're not insinuating he's going to be 25, 30 minutes a night or anything. But again, if you're trying to replace Barnes to some extent, like if you don't trade one of Vassell or Johnson, which again, we've thrown around here in this a lot, it's like, I worry about putting too much pressure on him, but then again, it's the NBA, bro. Like, lock in. I think Carter Bryant, like, I think, you know what, Keenan, he might be the single biggest X factor for this team, because if Harper has a slower development curve than expected, which I don't anticipate, we still have lots of guys to fill in that position if we need to, right? Our small forward is stacked, our power forward, but like Carter Bryant, if he forces himself into this rotation, not only will that be such a great sign for our future, because you're getting another solid rotation guy on a rookie scale contract, but it also answers your questions about Keldon and Vassell, and it makes him more expendable than ever, and you can get a pretty good haul for these guys, right? So I think Carter Bryant's production is going to be maybe the biggest X factor for this team this whole year.
Yeah, 100%. Because if he can really put himself into, he is part of our 8, or he is part of our 9, or he's part of our 10, depending on how deep you go, like in the playoffs wise. If he can put himself there and he can be a consistent 35% shooter from 3, within 3 to 4 years, he's an all defense caliber kind of player. Yeah. And if he can shoot, he can be 3 and D. He can match up with so many players in the Western Conference. Think he can guard Shea, then he can go guard. Obviously, Steph probably won't be in the league at that point, or maybe he's not. Like, there's so many players that he can guard, and then he can even go guard a 4 if necessary. So Carter Bryant, really, you're right. He is the X factor to this all, because if he is not developing like we want him to, then we might have to keep Keldon. Then we might have to think about keeping Barnes. Yeah. We might have to keep Vassell. But if he is developing, all of those guys become expendable, and that just puts us in even more of a good position moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've done such a good job with everything, it seems. And again, we'll talk about the other signings in a minute. We got so much to talk about. So unbelievable. Thank you all for being here as well. Almost 200 of you in here. This is what it's all about. Goodness. Spurs basketball, baby. Yeah, thank you all for being here. I want to shout out some chatters, because you know what? We're going through all this stuff. I want to get to a few of you guys in chat. Again, channel members, if you become a channel member, we will read your messages in priority or super chats, but I'm going to try to get who I can. I wanted to say shout out to Joseph, saying thanks for reading my lineup. Been a fan for a minute. Thanks for keeping us informed on current Spurs news. Anytime, Joseph. We remember the names around here, so thank you for being a fan for a while, and thank you for stopping in, leaving a chat. Every single one of you that even reads a chat, even if we don't get to it, apologies, but it does mean a lot. It helps us show that, there's fans out there. There's people who want to talk Spurs basketball, even in the dog days of August. It's the best thing ever. Fred says, big fan of Spurs Digest. Keep it up. Thank you very much. What's your opinion of Sochan and the Spurs signing him? Seems to be a lot of negative opinion as of late. And I'm going to just stop on that for a second, Keenan, because I know you mentioned it as well. And we've talked about it a lot in this stream, but I want to dive just a bit deeper for a second, because you can see Spurs Reporter tweeted this as well. I know, not the most popular Twitter account, but like, it has some good stuff out there too. So anyway, regardless, Jeremy Sochan is now eligible for a rookie extension. If no deal gets done this summer, he'll hit restricted free agency in 2026. Projections put his extension at 3 to 4 years, 60 to 80 million, depending on how his role and jumper evolve. Should the Spurs extend him now or wait? So, Keenan, I'm of two minds about this, and I wanted to dive into this with the fans as well, and I'm going to put up a poll for what you guys think the average per year salary should be, because there's two things here, Keenan. Like I alluded to earlier, if you're Jeremy Sochan, you're probably thinking, okay, I just had a year where I got injured. I had some back issues. That's never really the ideal time to get your most money, right? And he's also thinking, I got the Eurobasket coming up, and I can prove myself there. He might not want to sign until after that. But if you're the Spurs, you're like, we really like you, Jeremy Sochan, and we'd like to lock you up long term. Here's what we're going to offer you now. So I feel like if they're talking contract now, which we haven't heard that they're talking about negotiations, Spurs they're very tight-lipped on this stuff. I would imagine the Spurs are coming in somewhere between 15 to 20, and I'd imagine Sochan's probably asking between 22.5 and 27.5 million, and usually they'll settle in between there. I don't think Sochan has any grounds to really ask for 30, and I don't think the Spurs are going to go below anywhere near 15 million. So it's like, I feel like if the Spurs get him now, it's going to be at a great deal, just because, look, we're going to project you for the future as well. We don't want to lowball you, because I think that's a bad idea, but like, this is the time, if you're the Spurs, that you can get him at more of a bargain. But if you're Sochan, you probably want to wait to get a bit more money. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think Sochan is going to be one of these guys to wait, maybe go until next off season, and as he's an RFA, maybe be open to free agency? I think he has a great spot on this team. I think he's extremely underrated by some people. I know there's some negative press around him right now, but I think this Eurobasket, this is just my opinion, because I'm a Sochan truther, is going to change some people's minds of him who don't have the greatest opinion.
I think that there's two aspects here. Yeah. If you're the Spurs, you sign him as quick as possible, or you're going to have to wait and see how much he commands on the open market. But if I'm the Spurs, Sign him as quick as possible if you really believe, if you're one of the Sochan truthers and you truly believe that he can be part of the future of this organization. You sign him as quick as possible.
Yeah.
If you're Sochan, that's a terrible business move if you believe in yourself. Not terrible, but not the best business move if you believe in yourself. If your jump shot has really gotten better, if you can really showcase what you can do this year without injury, obviously we hope, then that could change you from being a $19 million guy to a $24 to $25 million guy. And obviously over 4 years, that extra $25 million does matter to every human. So like billionaires are like an extra $25 million is pretty cool. So like for Sochan, I would advise not to if you are really, really confident in yourself. For the Spurs' sake, get him as quick as possible because that can be a bargain going forward.
Yeah, I think so too. And I just put up a poll in the chat. How much per year do you think Sochan's next contract will be? Will it be below 20 million a year? Will it be 20 to 22 and a half, 22 and a half to 25, or above 25 million per year? Leave your answer in the poll down below. We'll get back to that in a minute because I think that, like, again, Keenan, it's such an interesting position for the Spurs. If we go back to the depth chart, like, there's so many guys on this team right now, at least. Again, I don't anticipate this roster looking nearly the same this time next year. There's going to be a lot of changes, and we have to brace for that. Your fan favorites, heck, even Sochan, like, I don't think it's impossible for him to be gone if the right trade comes about, right? As much as I love our boy, Jeremy Sochan, but, like, you know, you got Sochan, who's like a 3/4/1/5/ I don't know, like, kind of everything. You got Harrison Barnes. Well, yeah, he's a hybrid. He's like a tribrid. He's a whatever. Anyway, you got Harrison Barnes, who's like a 3/4. You got Keldon Johnson, who's like a 3/4. You got Vassell, who's pretty much locked into the 3 right now, I think. Like, just because of the sheer amount of 1s and 2s we have, and Fox, Castle, Champagnie, and Harper, and even guys like McLaughlin, who's probably not going to play that much, and Jones Garcia, who really knows with him? And we also got Lindy Waters, not to mention, right? So, like, Lindy Waters is a guy I've left off of this depth chart, but, like, he could very well be in the conversation as well. So, you know, you have these guys, Ricardo Bryant, another guy who probably projects longer term as a 3/4, or like a really big 2 in a certain lineup if his shooting improves a lot. I still think of him more as a 3, though. I don't really love the idea of him playing the 2 on offense. On defense, I don't mind. But anyway, there's so many interesting things there. And when it comes to Sochan, it's like, again, I feel like I'm really only comfortable giving him a lot of money if his shot develops. Because if I don't know, maybe this is a hot take, and I want to get your thoughts. Like, but if I take just Jeremy Sochan of last season, and I look at what he did, ignore the injury. I know that's hard for me to say, but just ignore it, right? And just look at the production when he was healthy, right? Not those injury-riddled games, whatever. When he was healthy, he was like 15-9 with great defense and reasonable shooting, like 30-something%.
Yeah.
If you just take that Jeremy Sochan, what's he worth on the open market? And so I say, well, if, like, he's going to improve a bit, but if I take that Sochan and just add improvements, and I say, let's assume his jumper never gets to league average, what is that? I'm talking probably somewhere between 15 and 20, which is why, again, like, I don't worry, but I do start to think about, if I'm Sochan, I'm probably just going to let this ride out. Unless you have a great Eurobasket, then you're good. But I think I would actually probably be surprised if a deal got done this summer. And if it does get done this summer, I would anticipate it to be at the lower end of the contracts that we're talking about, because it'd be Sochan just wanting to be here. But I think if you're Sochan's sake, like you said, like, I think I'd be surprised. If Sochan just wants his money, I don't think this is getting done this offseason unless he has a monster Eurobasket.
Yes. And so, like, my guy who I've always, I mean, obviously player-wise, I've compared to Aaron Gordon, and that's what I want from him. The guy that I've always thought about in this has been Naz Reid. And the reason was because Naz Reid got a 5-year, $125 million contract. He averaged last year 14-6. Sochan gave you 15-9, but that doesn't show Naz Reid's entire impact on the game, because he is a 38% shooter from the outside. He can play some defense. He's a good rim protector, and he is kind of the glue, especially down the stretch, for that roster. His stats do not showcase his impact. For Sochan, that 15-9 this year kind of did showcase his impact for the most part. He did obviously do more defensively and things of that nature, but that 15-9 kind of showed like he was a very good player. So I would give that 21 on the open market myself. Yeah. But that 15-9 this year, I'm taking for that stretch, obviously it was 11-6 for the whole entire season. But if you have that this year and his impact is more than that, then I think that's where you can get to that Naz Reid 25, 26-ish a year, where then we're going to have to make decisions on, we want to keep this guy, so that means Keldon has to go.
Yeah.
And then like other decisions from there. But right now, I think he commands about 19 to 21, 22 on the market.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And again, when you put Naz Reid's contract into perspective, it's like there's no world Sochan's getting 25, at least not in my mind, right? So again, the poll is ended. We're going to take a look at it. Poll. That's kind of funny. Anyway, how much per year will this contract be? 48% of people saying sub $20 million. Can't say I disagree. And 40% saying 20 to 22 and a half. So basically 90% of our audience is saying between, sub 20 or like no more than 22.5 million. And I'm definitely on board with that. But we got, it's funny because you can see the number one, number two chatters in chat. If you're sending a lot of chats and you see who's the number one, number two, number three chatters in the stream right now, Angelina's number one right now, saying sign him now. He's a national player of Poland. If he plays great in Eurobasket, he deserves that contract. Yes, Sochan can three-point threat in an upcoming season. He practices it this offseason and trying to the first Poland national team at Eurobasket and in Spurs team in the actual regular season. Exactly. I think three-point could be good. And then you got, that's the number one chat, and then the number two said, bro, we shoot him with one hand, give up on that dude. Which is like my anti-opinion, but I also understand it, right? I get the dissension and I get the praise because it is a controversial player to a lot of an extent, Keenan. And I don't want to spend too much time on this, but at the end of the day, I think if I just had to say to you, do you want Sochan on a new 4-year extension? And like, if you just kind of, I know it's hard to ignore the money, but like, I would just say yes in a heartbeat. I don't see any world where I would want to give him up. He is so talented. And again, when he was healthy for this team, he was a big difference maker.
Yes, 100%. And the only interesting thing will be is if he's playing super well during the season, he is a guy that if you can tell his agent starts talking to you and that number keeps going up and up and you can't do it, that's a player that you could flip.
Yeah.
Because someone could get him for the future. Because some just random teams. Someone say the Lakers are like, yes, we need that defensive piece. We need a guy like that. You could flip him for picks and then maybe someone good there. But that's obviously future stuff that we need to see Sochan get to that point. But there's just so much there. There's so much with the Spurs. And this year for the Spurs, I believe, is going to be the determining factor of the next 5 to 7 years. And it started with the Fox signing. Like, I just think this year is going to be one of the most important years for the Spurs for their future because there's so much uncertainty, but there's so much promise.
Yep, there is a lot. And that's the big thing, right? There's so much promise. And how do you, it's hard to put stock in certain guys over others. And I see an interesting comment from Keith saying, sounds like you're saying, we got these shiny new youngsters in Castle, Harper, and Bryant, so let's get rid of those stale old guys. Vassell, Johnson, Sochan. We can use the money on the newbies. Not necessarily, no. It's just more that, like, you got these good, talented players, these young guys, but, like, when they're young, the value they give you on rookie contracts is a lot relatively higher than guys like Vassell and Johnson. And it's not that I don't like Vassell and Johnson, because they're fantastic players. The fact of the matter is, though, when you're looking at the extensions that you will have to pay, these are just contracts that might have to be casualties. And it's not that, oh, we just get rid of the old for the new, because there's a world where like Johnson and Vassell are producing just as much, if not more, than like guys like Sochan and Castle in 2-3 years, right? Like, I think Castle will bring more, on defense and stuff to that, but we're just projecting, right? These guys are still part of the team. We still got 2 more years of Keldon. We still got 4 more years of Vassell. They could stick around, but if these young guys prove enough that they need to be extended, unfortunately, someone has to be a casualty. You can't pay everyone as much as you want unless you want to dive deep into the second apron, which is a bit of a death sentence for teams now. So it's like, it's just a tough situation, right? And again, I got nothing against Vassell or Keldon. I love both. A big body, my boy going back to number 3 this year. Devin Vassell, when he signed that contract, I was telling all my friends who didn't care, I was like, this is going to age super well. He's been hurt, but like, I love both these guys. It's just a matter of like, at the end of the day, you can't keep everyone. As much as it sucks to say it, like, these guys might just be the ones that have to go.
That they really might be. And the thing is, just how quickly things trade on draft lottery night. Like, imagine if the Hawks were the 14th pick. They easily could have made the playoffs. That could have been a completely different out of there. We don't get Carter Bryant kind of thing. And then if we just get the 8th or 9th pick, just get the 8th or 9th pick like we were projected to do. Then we need Vassell because of the way he shoots and the way he can score in isolation. Keldon Johnson we are going to need because of the fact that he can give you a spark off the bench, and that completely changes this roster. But we get the 14, we get the 2, and here we are.
Yep.
And so we have to go with the times, and you have to change. I'm pretty positive before draft night, the Mavs are thinking to themselves, what should we do? And then they get Cooper Flag and like, oh, okay, I got our answer.
Easy. Yep. So that was a freebie.
Got our guy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, unbelievable. We do have a very interesting trade proposal in chat that I wanted to read out to you, Keenan. We got Happy Times coming in saying they should trade Jeremy Sochan for Keenan Warner and Josh Gosse. And I'm wondering what you're thinking about that. Like, I can bring some shooting. And if you combine our forces, I feel like it could work for the Spurs. But at the end of the day, I don't know if we're going to be able to, in the aggregate, make up Jeremy Sochan's value as much as we could try. I don't know. What do you think about that one?
I think that I could bring the shooting percentage from the 3-point line and from the free throw line confidently. Yeah. I just think I'm going to be a defensive liability at this point in my life. So I've been playing basketball every day, though. So like I've been playing I'm getting ready because I was preparing for this trade talk. I understand that was there. So
yeah, I mean, look, we got Jonathan Simmons, right? Dude walked into an open trial for Austin. I mean, there's a world where you see us on the floor sometime soon. I'm just saying, right? Like, again, yeah. I can bring the physicality. I'm only 6 feet tall, but I can bring the physicality. I can jump passing lanes. I can shoot the three. It's all you need, right, in the NBA these days. So it's a good trade talk. I like that idea. But
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
But that's fair enough. Thank you, Happy Times, for that. I really appreciate that. But I want to get in talk about Potter, says Peter. Who is he? Oh, I promise we'll get to him. Here he is. Little teaser, but not quite yet. Before we get to Micah Potter, I want to just talk about this briefly, Keenan, because I know you talked about this in the video yesterday, but pen to paper, we have re-signed Harrison Ingram and Riley Minix. And these are two, well, they're kind of on different ends of the spectrum after Summer League, because, Riley Minix, unfortunately, has been dealing with a lot of injuries. His shoulder, he had a lot of shoulder problems last year. It held him only to 3 games for Austin. I think only 1 game with San Antonio. So it's like, he was really hurt, but he was rehabbing. And this summer, Minix was one of our best players. Like, straight up, the dude was consistent. He hit that game winner. He was just so good. Every time he took a jumper, I felt like it was going in. If we take a look at Minix's stats here, sorry, that is really small, but I can read it if you guys can't see it. Turn into quality to HD, you might, but Minix in only 3 games, 24 minutes a game, 12.7 points, but he shot 44% from 3 in just that 3-game sample size. He shot 16 threes and he made 7 of them, so that's pretty good. Didn't miss a free throw of all the 2 he shot, but still, I mean, and he went up there and put 4.7 boards, 1.3 assists. And Riley Minix, Keenan, I will get to Ingram in a second. I'm so glad we brought him back. I've been saying since the moment we signed Jones Garcia, I was like, well, our 2-way spot to me, because I thought Jones Garcia was going to be a 2-way, or like, I think he is, anyway, regardless. But Riley Minix, I knew was going to be a 2-way spot. It took us a while to get there, but we absolutely did. This guy, honestly, he proved to me that I would be surprised if he didn't get a few games with the Spurs over the next couple of years. I think he is like an NBA level talent. I don't know if that's a hot take, but I've been very impressed with Riley Minix on the whole, especially in Summer League. And, especially now, rehabbing that shoulder, coming off of injury, the dude can shoot. He's pretty mobile. And again, like we talked about, with Olynyk and Barnes expiring, I would not be shocked to see him be kind of like a third-string guy that can step in for 10 minutes a night next year and shoot the 3-ball.
I think a guy like Kelly Olynyk he could learn from, like a veteran who he can kind of have that level of play style in the sense of like that pick and pop kind of guy. And speaking of Kelly Olynyk, I don't know if I can pencil him or pen him in for 82 games this season. Yeah. So like there's going to be points in January where we want to sit some of these older guys, or maybe there's just a night and Riley Minix can come in there. And even though it's a team like the Utah Jazz that we should be, even with a couple B guys and like most of our A guys, he comes in there and gives you a stretch where he makes 2 threes and gets a layup, and that's 8 points, get a run in the second quarter of a game. He has that kind of capabilities. So I'm really happy about him being there, and hopefully he can stay healthy throughout the entirety of the season so we really get to see what he can be as a player in the league.
Yeah. Do you foresee Minix like being one of those end of the bench guys for a while? I feel like he's been a nice Spur so far. Again, it's hard to say, especially after this past season, but like, does Summer League impress you as much as it impressed me? Because I genuinely feel like Minix just, you can almost tell sometimes there's a vibe about guys like that feels like an NBA player. Not all the time with Minix. He still feels more like a fringe guy, but like to me, I just felt like he was a step ahead of some of these guys, knew where to be, what to do, and when he had his chances, he made them count. And that's what a lot of the better Summer League players do to me,
Yes, so when watching the Spurs Summer League, I looked at Carter Bryant. I was like, that guy has so much potential. I watched 18 minutes of Harper and I was like, I don't need more. Like that's a guy. Like that's going to be a future all-star in the league.
Yeah.
You watch Jones Garcia and you're
yeah.
like, he literally is a varsity playing against JV. This guy needs to be in the league. And then you watch Minix and you're like, there's something there. There's something there. So those are the four guys that I felt like watching this summer league. I was like, they have they can get real NBA run depending whether it's all-star level, just down to a bench guy who gives you 8 a game. Unfortunately, the guy on the left in that photo, I don't fully feel the same about.
Get into it.
And it's because he has the hustle. He rebounds very well for his size at around 6'5". He is a very good rebounder, and he does put effort out there. Laterally, he is not the quickest, which makes it difficult because he is going to have to guard a lot of these quick wings and a lot of these athletic guys that I don't know if he can stay with because he doesn't really have the size to guard in the paint like that. And then offensively, he doesn't have a consistent enough game to really get on the floor. Do you really want, if you're only can do one thing, you want to be a super specialist. You either want to be an offensive specialist or a defensive specialist, and he is not really good enough right now to be either. Hopefully the G League can be able to progress him and he can become that, but as of right now, he is just on the 2-way contract. He is really just a 1-way contract, and I think it's really just the G League. Whereas Riley Minix, I legitimately think could be a 2-way contract where he plays in both.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, like, a lot of NBA teams don't use the G League as a developmental league in a lot of ways, right? There's not really that system that goes up and down through. The Spurs have been one of the teams that have used it a lot. I know Toronto and Miami are two of the biggest go-to examples over the past number of years that have really utilized it. I mean, geez, that 905 team with Siakam and Van Vliet, like, oh my God, like, unbelievable. I think Chris Boucher might have been on that team as well. But some insane stuff there. But I think the Spurs can utilize it very well. But I think you're bang on with Harrison Ingram. I'm going to bring the stats back up again. Again, sorry it's small, but I can read it to you if you don't see it, because the G League, there's no easy way to look at nice G League stats to get the whole picture, but 13 points a game over 32 games. But again, Keenan, like you said, that offensive game just isn't really there. 43% from the field, 28% from 3, 9.5 boards, 4.1 assists, 1.4 steals, and 0.8 blocks. Harrison Ingram is a defensive menace when he wants to be, right? Because his hustle is unbelievable. Like you said, his lateral quickness is not his strongest suit, but the dude is smart and he works his butt off every single time he's on the floor. And that's what I've always admired about Harrison Ingram. The problem is when the ball gets into his hands, his first step is not fast enough to blow by almost anyone. He's strong enough to make something happen around the rim, but his three-point shot also isn't reliable enough. And at this point now, you can't do much with the ball in your hand. You're not a reliable enough shooter off the ball. There's not much role for you in the NBA. However, using the G League, to circle back to my point, as a nice developmental league, to have competition, to breed competition between other guys, to see, hey, who can maybe move up to the Spurs? Because they're one of the teams in the league that does look at this and takes people up from the G League at a semi-frequent basis. So when you have Ingram down there and you have a guy like, hey, maybe even Jones Garcia could play a few minutes down there, right? And you got, again, Micah Potter, Riley Minix, not the same position necessarily, but you're all battling out to prove, hey, I deserve to be called up. Ingram's one of these guys that I think could show up, but I don't know. We'll have to see. And I don't know. Let us know if you guys have any thoughts about Harrison Ingram. We're going to get into Micah Potter in just a second, the big signing. But before we get into that, there's just one thing I want to ask you guys. See that subscriber count? I want to see that at 9650. I think there's at least 9 of you of the 150 in here who haven't hit that sub button. And we're about to talk about the big signing today. The signing today that we're really excited about, okay? Because, again, this goes right back to what I just said, Keenan. The Austin Spurs, if you can make these guys a good team and you can breed competition between the other guys, it just makes your whole organization top to bottom have that winning culture, which we already do, but it also allows guys to really try and prove themselves to make that jump to the next level. So even your developmental guys are forcing the hand of some of your bottom of the roster guys, hey, you got to step up. But I want to read in the chat one final thing. Angeline has been in the chat this whole time. Jeremy Sochan, a Spur for life type of player. Also saying Jeremy Sochan's the best rebounder, one of a kind, has a three-point shooting upcoming season, practice the offseason. So he's been practicing a lot this offseason. Imagine Dennis Rodman having a three-point shot. Hey, I don't know about that, but that's the thing, Keenan. We got a lot of hype here now, but you know what? I think we're ready to get into our boy. You know what? You are the resident expert on this guy. for now. I put his G League career stats on the screen, but Micah Potter has 64 NBA games, Keenan. I mean, we know what he brings. He's a stretch big, but like, what did you see in Micah Potter's game that makes you think, like, look, I know it's just an Exhibit 10, probably just for training camp. He'll probably report to Austin, but I'm actually really excited to see what he's going to bring to this team.
For Exhibit 10, for people who don't know what that is, it's a NBA 1-year non-guarantee minimum salary contract, allows the team to bring in players for training camp to convert to a two-way deal or retain for G League rights. So essentially, for if you don't know what an Exhibit 10 is, that is what an Exhibit 10 is. This guy has been a very consistent shooter throughout the entirety of his life. Last year was not a great season for him. He was also bouncing between the G League and the NBA, which I think if you don't get rhythm, shooting is a lot about rhythm. And before last year, he was shooting above 40% in the G League every single year. In the NBA, he is 34.4% from three. So he's, even last year with his down year of shooting, he is still very good. In college, he was 38% from three. So this guy is a confident shooter, but he's also 6'10", 248. So he is not afraid of contact. He is not afraid to get within the paint, to get rebounds, to try to get putbacks, or just to be there in the dunker spot, just as a guy who dumps it off and you can get a dunk there. He surprisingly has a little bit more hops than you would expect.
Yeah.
He actually kind of can catch a body or two if you're caught, like if you're really not expecting it, which threw me off. Nothing off the dribble at all. Like, just don't worry about him off the dribble. But if he's in the post, he can do maybe a drop step kind of layup thing. But really, if you watch him, he is going to be a spot up guy with really nice form, and he has a quick trigger. So he's a guy that I actually think if you have him spacing for 8 to 9 minutes on a floor, he can do a miniature version of what Kelly Olynyk can do for you. Not obviously to that level, but like a miniature version of what Kelly Olynyk can do for you. So he is a guy too, like if you have to let Kelly walk and he can develop into something, you could give him 12 minutes a game and he could be something cool.
Yeah, it is really cool because I want to remind, well, not even remind, let you guys know, he started 10 games this last year. Now, it was the Jazz, so, like, take that with a grain of salt. But, like, at the same time, he started 10 games in the NBA this past year, and he averaged 4.5 points a game, 32% from three in the NBA, and with Salt Lake City in the G League. So it's like, he had a down year shooting from three, but despite that down year, again, his G League career stats still at 39% from three. He has multiple seasons in the G League. You can see here, his first year in the G League, 33 games played in 21-22, 44% from three on 3.5 attempts a game. The next year, 41% from three on 4.1 attempts a game. The next year, 37.3% on 5.1 attempts a game. It's one of these guys where, like, the volume starts to go up from three, the efficiency starts to go down, but, like, you watch him, Keenan, like you said, this guy just looks like a sniper. Like, when he catches the ball, it's one of these quick releases. He's one of these guys, he doesn't really dip a lot on his jumper either. And, you know, you mentioned a guy like Riley Minix, who could learn a lot from someone like a Kelly Olynyk, right? There's certain guys here on the team that can teach these guys a lot. I think Micah Potter very well fits into that same mold. And again, it makes Austin dangerous, but also it just gives the Spurs another option, again, depending how camp goes, to just bring in a guy that could very well fill one of these shooting holes, because, you know, there's other guys at Spurs. I'm saying Jones Garcia is a fine shooter, Waters is a fine shooter, but like a stretch big, like this is something we traded for. We know Olynyk's only on a 1-year deal. We signed Riley Minix to a 2-way G League deal. Micah Potter to an Exhibit 10, who's probably going to end up in the G League on a 2-way would be my guess. There's a clear motif here with the Spurs, Keenan, and it reveals a lot because we know that shooting is an issue. So what are we doing? We're going getting guys, a guy that played over 30 games in the NBA this year, who started 10 games of them on an Exhibit 10, and we're going to give him a shot because we know what that hole is for us, and in classic Spurs fashion, we're going to try and, you know, not like put all our eggs in one basket with this, but we're going to try and take some of these guys and just turn them into NBA level talents, despite bringing them in originally on like 2-ways or Exhibit 10s. To me, this is just following what the Spurs have always done, and I think this could end up, you know, maybe not paying off huge, but paying off in a guy like an end-of-the-bench roster guy that can come in and provide you nice value if you need shooting off the bench.
What did Matt Bonner do for it? Like,
Oh,
that
baby.
like that kind of thing where it's like, oh, Matt Bonner, he could become a fan favorite. And we going into the offseason, us as Spurs fans, the Spurs collective, we're like, we need two things. We need shooting and we need bigs. What do we do to address the bigs? We got Luke Cornett and then we got Kelly Olynyk. Shooting, we addressed it with Kelly Olynyk. Hopefully Carter Bryant can get to that point. Dylan Harper, we'll see what he's there. And then now they're getting lower level players to be that shooting. Obviously, as a shooter, you have years to develop. We'll see what Castle, Sochan, Harper, obviously Fox is kind of a ready-made player, but you can still develop as a shooter. But we'll see what those young guys, Carter Ryan as well, can do as shooters. So before we just make plunges to get shooters, let's see what we have. I think the Spurs, I mean, they're a super smart organization, as we all know. But the Spurs saw what we saw, and they're like, okay, we need to get bigs. And let's see how we develop as shooters. And if we don't develop like I think, we have the access to go make moves. So Potter is just one of those guys who I think can push the envelope for if we need to bring up a shooter for a couple days, depending if there may be an injury or something like that. He can come in there and you can be like, okay, he's played NBA games before. He knows how it goes. Let's go there. He's played 64 games in the NBA in total. He understands what it's like to be on an NBA floor.
I'm excited for Micah Potter, and we had a poll up in chat. Now, again, I don't expect a lot of you to have in-depth opinions of Micah Potter, but hopefully we gave you enough of an idea. 62% of people said, hey, it's a good Exhibit 10 thing. 37% of people, again, why does it not add up to 100%? I don't know. They said, meh, I think that's fair too. We don't really know what it's going to turn into, but yeah, it's going to be amazing. And I wanted to go to the chat here now, Keenan. Just one little thing here I saw from Cowboy Tanaka, and this is going to be interesting to a lot of you. He said, coming back to Sochan, I watched the Polish national videos. In a private conversation, he said, quote, we didn't have real fives on the Spurs last year. It was hard. I didn't have a position to come back to. We really owe him a good season at the 4. And I think you're absolutely right. Because now, what did the Spurs do? Well, we filled the biggest need that we had. We have some real fives. Wemby, again, hoping for a full season. The blood clot doesn't seem to be recurring. Probably won't be. So he'll be there at the 5 all year. Cornette is always a 5. He's never going to play the 4. Olynyk can also very well play the 5. There's not many worlds where Sochan's going to need to play the 5. I don't think he will play the 5 almost at all this year. I think it's going to be probably less than 2% of his minutes. He might play spot minutes here and there, but with the amount of big man depth that we have in just Wemby, Cornette, and Olynyk who can play the 5 alongside Sochan, I think Olynyk at the 5, Sochan at the 4 could be really interesting. I think that is going to also change our perspective a bit because, again, like remember early season, we talk about this a lot. When it was Wemby at the 5 and Sochan at the 4, that was nasty. Like Sochan he's averaging 18 points a game over a little stretch early in the season. Then he got hurt, unfortunately, pretty early. But they were working off each other so well. And while, the minutes might not be there as much this year for Sochan as it was last year, I fully anticipate that kind of effectiveness coming back into play now that he doesn't have to worry about playing a position he's not meant to play.
When you have a defined role as a player, you know how to execute that role at the highest of levels. He doesn't have to be a 3 or 2 or a 1. There's nothing there. We have all of that filled with our litany of guys who are 6'4" to 6'6", who can play 1 through 3 or 6'8", 6'7", whatever. But then he doesn't have to play a 5, he would be 4th in our lineup of 5s, as you highlighted, with Cornette, Wemby, and Olynyk, not in that order. Obviously, Wemby's 1. Yeah. So now he gets to come in there and play anywhere from 24 to 30 minutes a game, depending on how he's rolling. And he knows I'm going to go in there. I'm going to guard some perimeter guys, guard some post guys, depending on who is going in the lineup. And then offensively, I need to hit some spot up threes, get in a dunker spot, and be able to move around, set some nice solid screens in the back, and make plays off of that. Last year, he played some very efficient basketball. As you saw, over 50% from the floor. His three-point shot wasn't great, but it was over 53.5% from the floor. That is great basketball, which is showcasing that he was not taking any shots that he shouldn't be taking. So if he can just play within himself, I think he can maximize his role, and I don't see why 15 and 8 is out of the realm of possibility for a guy like that, especially if he has high impact defensively.
100%. And again, the defense is going to be such a big thing this year, and one of the most exciting things, for the casual basketball fan, watching this Spurs defense is maybe not going to be as interesting for us. And I know a lot of you guys in chat, like Spurs fans, we know what good defense looks like, and we love to watch it. That's part of what made us Spurs fans, at least a lot of us. I want to get to another final question here from Julian saying, do y'all think Julian Champagnie will do good this season? And you know what? I think that's actually an interesting question, and I want to just say, fine. But I think the good thing with Julian Champagnie, Keenan, and I think maybe the underrated aspect of him, maybe we're getting into the deep. Whoa, hold on, Josh. The deep bench talk right here. Julian Champagnie, the big thing with him, we fully guaranteed his $3 million just about a week ago, maybe not even that. The thing with Champagnie is that for him to be, it depends what you define as good, but I think he will absolutely way outperform that $3 million this year, and that's what I care about. I don't need him to play 25 minutes a night. I don't need him to start like he did for a lot of last season. I just want Champagnie to play 20 minutes a night off the bench, 15, 20 minutes a night, and shoot 38, 39% from three. Can he get up that high? Yeah, I think he can. I think he's proven he can. He's been a bit streaky over his career. And again, he's one of those guys where I feel like, the more shots you get, the more likely it is to go in. So we'll see what he does with a slightly reduced role, but I don't think it's going to be that different really from this season. But I think that with the floor opening up so much, with so many threats now, a full season of Wemby, a full season of Fox, and the improvements from Castle, having Dylan Harper, Champagnie's shot is going to be more open than ever, Keenan. And for $3 million, if this dude can knock down 2.5 threes a game or something off the bench, that's going to be incredibly valuable, especially come later in the season when you really, especially for a Spurs team, especially again, that just needs shooting. I feel like actual stats are not going to blow you away. Value per dollar, I think that's where Julian Champagnie is absolutely going to shine this year.
I agree 100% on that. And you have to think the Spurs were never consistent last year because the Spurs never were able to get flow last year. So obviously towards the back half of the season, we have the Wemby thing. We also have De'Aaron Fox coming into the lineup and then De'Aaron Fox leaving with the finger. Early on in the season, we don't have Devin Vassell there. Obviously, Chris Paul comes in and he is a guy who has to have the ball in his hands to really be effective. So he was going to kind of orchestrate the entire unit, which helped in some circumstances. In other ones, it was more difficult because it was a completely change of pace from what the Spurs had before. And then obviously Stephon Castle as a rookie, he was more of an experimental rookie. Like Dylan Harper, we kind of know what he is. It's just how good can he be at that. Yeah. Castle is he a 1? Can he be a 1? Is he a 2? Can he be a 2? Can he play a 3? How good of a player is he in isolation? How can he play making plays for others? And we saw that he can do a little bit of everything. So I think he is interesting. So for Champagnie coming in this year, you have Fox, who can get into the paint as well as anybody. Dylan Harper, who got into the paint better than anybody in college last year and really can get downhill. We even saw in the summer league games that he has. We obviously have Wemby, who is Wemby. When you have those guys already running the unit and Stephon Castle being more comfortable with the ball in his hands, Champagnie's going to get more open looks than he's ever gotten in a Spurs uniform. It's really, can you knock him down? And if he can be 36+% from the 3-point line and get you 2 to 3 threes a game, playing about 18 minutes and not be a liability defensively, that's a $7 million guy, and you get him for $3 million.
Yeah, I'd like it to be higher than 36, personally. I mean,
personally, yes, but I think benchmark at 36, I can deal with it.
What's the league average now? Is it 37? Is it gone up?
I think it's around 36, 37.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I'd like them to be about maybe a percentage above league average, but again, 36 is not gonna, like, yeah, for $3 million, go ahead. Like that. We're talking about basically league min at that rate, right? So like, I think 36 is fine. Yeah. Let's take a look at it.
37.6, I believe, last year was league average. That went up from 35.2, 35.1. So it really was, I believe that was the league average last year. Oh, no, sorry. I'm lying to you. Okay. It was 36 it was 30, around 36. Okay. It was around 36.
So around 36 makes sense. I was going to say 37 is like crazy.
Sorry, 37 was the attempts, my bad. I was looking there because I saw
I see.
I saw the attempts and it was a little bit.
And then
So it was 36% last year, and then the year before was 36.6. So if you can get 37 plus above league average, so he is not just a league average, he is a plus shooter from 3, I'm confident and happy.
Absolutely. We're going to get to one final thing. I see Joseph sending another lineup. Start Fox, Castle, Barnes, Sochan, and Wemby. Keenan, that's not a bad idea. Vassell off the bench could be at Vassell. Like, having your 1 through 3 off the bench, I mean, Dylan Harper, Julian Champagnie, Devin Vassell, that could have been a starting trio for the Spurs like a year or two ago. Actually, I don't mind that idea, so I like that, Joseph. Thank you for being a fan as well. Thank you for being here. The final thing I want to get to, Cowboy Tanaka. If we stay with the team we have today, what's our win percentage? I'm not even going to say win percentage. I'm just going to give wins and losses because I don't want to do the percentage in my head. I suppose I could do it, but like, look, the West is a bloodbath. And I know it's really easy to say this team could be a 50-win team because it's look at the team. Holy crap, it's going to be so good. But the West is crazy. But we also have Wemby. I'm going to be a little conservative with my guess, Keenan, and I'm going to say I don't even know if this is even conservative. I want to be a bit conservative because I want the Spurs to blow me out of the water. I'm going to say 44-38. And I don't think that's ridiculous. I think that's enough to get you a playoff spot in the West this year. And I think that's you're above 500. It's a big jump. And you're not that far away from 50 wins. In a crazy West, I think 44 wins could be really, really good. And I think that's actually a lot lower than what a lot of people are going to say. But that's my benchmark because, again, we have a lot of uncertainties with this team. The team looks a lot better. We're super deep. Could we push 50? Why not? I think there's so many question marks that we could. I'm going to say 44. What are you feeling?
I think 46-36 is where I want to be, that and above. But 44-38, if it's that, I'm happy. So what that is about 56% win percentage is what mine is about. So just to answer that win percentage portion of it, last year in the NBA, your top 8 teams were all 48-34 and better. But you have to also think last year too, the Spurs, us clearly were not as good as we could be. The Suns were weird. The Dallas Mavericks obviously had a bunch of change. The Kings had a bunch of change as well because they had multiple big trades. And then teams like Portland could be a little bit more interesting this year. Wow. So it's going to that's a little bit more interesting.
Donovan Clingan for Depoy, baby.
Hey, listen, that could be a little bit more interesting. I kind of like what Portland's doing. Just a little bit.
They're fun. They got Lillard. He's not going to play, but
they're fun. Just a little bit more. Anyways, there's really 11 or 12 teams in the Western Conference that can be high level. So I think that 46-36, I think confidently is going to get you in the top 8. I think 48 plus is confidently going to get you in the top 6. And that's the goal. But 46-36 plus, I'm super happy with. 44-43, I'm okay with, as long as we are definitely within that top 10. I'm okay.
Yep, same here. I think that's pretty much bang on as well. I think 50 is a bit of a stretch for how young this team is, but I mean, that's like the ultimate goal.
Last year, Kings a couple years back. You always have that one. You always have that one random team, especially in the Western Conference, that can really just kind of elevate because everything clicks together. Maybe that's the Spurs this year. We will see.
We'll have to wait and see. And we got Plex, who was one of our first 1,000 subscribers. Thank you for being here, Plex. Hi, just joined. What's brewing? Did I miss some news? Well, we're actually about to clue this up, but you did miss Micah Potter signing in Exhibit 10. If you want to check this out, you can rewind, but also, don't worry. If you missed the live, this goes up as a video on the channel that you can watch at any time after the stream is over, so don't worry about it. But we got Micah Potter, stretch big. He's 6'10", 250, and shoots the 3 like crazy. Check him out. Check out some highlights. He started 10 games for the Jazz last year, so we do have that, but thank you for being in here. Cowboys saying 41-44 wins. Angeline saying if we had Wemby, Fox, and Castle fully healthy, why not 50-plus wins? And you know what, Keenan, I think we'll probably call it there, but the one last thing I want to say, we're at 79 likes. I know we got 125 people left in here. If we could even get close to 100, that's just 20 of you who haven't hit that like button. Just one click, it helps us more than you could ever know. And I also want to ask, which fans here, if you're in chat, let us know where you're from, what country you're from. I'm sure we got a lot of people from the U.S., but I know we got a lot of international fans. We got people saying they're listening to some Polish stuff. I know we got a lot of Spanish-speaking fans, and I know we got French-speaking fans. I speak French, I speak some Spanish. I don't speak Polish, but I'd love to know where some of you guys are from in the countries. Because, Keenan, honestly, one great thing about this audience, it's incredibly international, and that's one of the best things about being a Spurs fan is that you never know where your content is reaching, but we're all sharing our love for our boys in the black and silver. It's just, it's so amazing to see where so many people far and wide come from in the comment section.
100%, and that's kind of what the Spurs have been. Obviously, you have players like Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili who are obviously staples. They're not from the U.S., clearly. We have our superstar right now and Jeremy Southen not from the U.S. The Spurs have always been able to integrate a bunch of cultures, which is why a bunch of cultures are able to be Spurs fans, and it's something that you love to see because basketball is a global sport, and we allow it to be a global sport, and the Spurs just do well at it, and so far, the Spurs Digest channel wants to be the same as the San Antonio Spurs with that well run and global.
Absolutely, yeah. For those of you that don't know, Little secret. I'm actually Canadian, so a little secret spoiled in the channel. Keenan, you are American, but
I am.
Yeah, I look. I lived in Texas for a bit. I've been to a Spurs game in person. I lived in Houston for 4 months back a number of years ago. So no, I've been around. It's not like I'm a stranger to it. Love me some Texas barbecue. But we got a lot of people. The 210. We got New York. We got Chicago. A lot of San Antonio. 2:40 a.m. here says Cowboy Tanaka. Wow, amazing. From San Antonio, San Pedro, and Bas. Philippines here, rooting for half Filipino Dylan Harper. That's another aspect too, Keenan. We got people all over. We got Maryland from Norris. We got Wemby Depoy, top 5 MVP conversation. Angeline is a super fan here, Keenan. I love the energy coming in through the chat. But yeah, it's so amazing to see people from everywhere. I know we got French fans who want to Maxime Reynaud. I know we got a Latin American fan. Oh, it's unbelievable. But any final thoughts before we end this stream off, Keenan? We got to do some more in the future because this one was it was a nice success.
It was very much fun. I'm hopeful you guys enjoyed it just as much as we enjoyed it there. Just want to answer for Angelina.
Yeah.
Angelina's chat there. So Wemby, top 5 MVP, absolutely sign that check. Defensive player of the year, as long as he's healthy, give him the trophy already. He's going to win it. He would have won it last year, should have won it 2 years ago, but Rudy Gobert somehow won it. We clearly know Wemby, he's not even in Wemby's class as a defender. Mm-hmm. So he is going to be there, and that's all I wanted to say. Wemby will be solidified as a top 10 guy in the league if he's not already to many people, and he might be there in the top 5. Like, that's just where he's going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. If it's not this year, it's going to be soon. But I want to thank every single one of you for being in here. Shout out to the 210, to the San Antonio native. So many of you in this chat. Thank you so much for watching. And if you enjoyed, hit the like on the stream. We're less than 10 away from 100. And hit that subscribe button like you can see there. We got that big goal of 10K. Thank you for tuning in every single day, all off season long. And if you have friends, family, anyone you know that needs to stay up to date on the Spurs, what better spot than here at Spurs Digest? Daily content coming. These live streams are going to become more frequent. Thank you so much to all of you for watching. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Keenan Warner. We'll catch y'all in the next one.